Hey everyone, tonight we're decoding the secret life of a pirate's accountant. You wake up to the sway of a ship. Salt sticks to your lips. Something wet drips on your forehead. Might be seawater, might be seagull judgment. You blink against. The sun slicing through a torn canvas sail, your ears ringing with distant shouts of "Hoist that." And where's the rum? You scurvy cheapskate. And that's when it hits you. Not just the hangover, not just the suspicious crustacean sharing your hammock, but the realization that somehow, someway, you've been hired as the bookkeeper. Aboard the Crimson Haddock, a pirate ship of dubious hygiene and even more dubious budgeting strategy. You don't know the year. It smells like 1712, but your contract is signed in ink and dried blood, and someone's carved "Ledger Rat" into the wall above your hammock. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I'm doing here. And let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is there. I want to know who else is up at 2 a.m. questioning their life choices. Now, turn down the lights, turn on the fan to some soothing music, and let's get going tonight. Because no one tells you this in school, but piracy, real piracy, is about 30% swashbuckling, 20% yelling, and a solid 50% accounting. Not that anyone likes to admit it, but every cannonball costs money. Every ration of rum has to be logged. And those dramatic scenes where they dump treasure into a cave and run off laughing, someone had to count that treasure first. Someone like you. The ship rocks under your feet as you get up barefoot, because your boots were stolen by a raccoon 3 ports ago. You're handed a leather-bound ledger by the quartermaster, a man named Stumpy Pete, who smells like boiled turnips and has only one functional eye and half an eyebrow. "Make sense of this mess," he growls, pointing to a crate of mixed coins, rotting oranges, and something that might be a cursed locket. The page before you is full of scrawlings, ink blots, and mysterious symbols. A chicken leg, a skull, and what looks like a very angry duck. Is that pirate shorthand? Or just terrible penmanship? Historians still debate whether pirates used actual coded symbols in their books, or whether their handwriting just looked like bad graffiti after 6 shots of rum. You're going to have to learn on the job, which would be fine if the job didn't. Include things like balancing expenditures between gunpowder legal and gunpowder stolen. Don't mention to captain. Your quill breaks on the 3rd entry. Ink spills into your lap. Somewhere above deck, someone's shouting "Shark! Fight!" And you're pretty sure that's not a metaphor. You crawl into the corner of the crew's supply hold, between 2 barrels of dried fish and a suspiciously humming crate labeled "Leave, maybe," and begin your first attempt at pirate inventory. There are 16 silver doubloons, 3 of which are clearly chocolate. A rusted sextant. A jar labeled "Captain's Moods. Do not open." You hesitate. You open it. It smells like betrayal and lavender. Welcome to your new normal. Because you, dear listener, are the ship's accountant now. The one person expected to keep their head while everyone else is using theirs to headbutt Royal Navy officers or flirt with widowed tavern owners who may or may not be fencing stolen gold. There's a knock on a ship. Yes, an actual knock. A large man with a neck tattoo of a ferret hands you a receipt for 14 units of rum, 1 unit of goat, and 1 angry letter from the Spanish ambassador. He expects reimbursement in doubloons. You do not have doubloons. What you do have is a headache, a broken quill, and what appears to be a partial map on the back of your ledger. Not that anyone mentioned that, but more on that later. For now, you scratch down your first official entry. **** accountant's log, day 1. Suspect the rum budget is embezzled. Suspect the goat is not accounted for. Suspect I am in too deep. ***, word count, 746. You stare at the ledger like it's a cursed artifact, and frankly, it might be. The ink is fading, the parchment smells faintly of squid, and every third page appears to be stuck together with what you hope is molasses. But Stumpy Pete is looming nearby, chewing something fibrous and glaring at you with that half an eyebrow that seems to judge your soul. "What's the take from last week's raid?" he asks, as if you've been here for years and not say 12 confused hours. You flip the pages back and forth, trying to understand the pirate method of arithmetic, which apparently involves tally marks, indecipherable doodles, and aggressive underlining. There's a column labeled MISC, which appears to include 1 mermaid tooth, 7 fancy buttons, 3 cannons, unassembled, and a borrowed church bell. No values, no currencies, just vibes. But that's where the secret brilliance of pirate bookkeeping lies. See, they didn't exactly go to business school, but they did understand the importance of recording what mattered. Who brought in the loot, who gets what cut, and who owes who a new peg leg. Pirates had their own version of fairness, driven less by tax codes and more by knives, and fear, and the occasional democratic vote. You try to find a pattern, and slowly it reveals itself, not unlike a rum-soaked magic eye poster. A certain symbol, a trident drawn in the margin, always follows the haul from Spanish ships. A tiny fish skeleton seems to indicate shared loot, and a jagged line, like a cracked tooth, probably means Captain took this and no one argued because last time someone did, he threw them into the ocean with pockets full of ballast. Historians still debate whether these markings were organized codes or just informal scribbles that got mythologized later. Either way, your job is to make sense of it and fast. Because tonight, the crew's getting paid. And pirate payday isn't a quiet HR meeting with cupcakes. It's a loud, sweaty chaos of gold tossing, fistfights over percentages, and at least one dramatic duel using smoked sausages. You sit down with your accounting kit, a knife, a bottle of diluted ink, 2 crusty abacuses, and what might be a cursed abacus that clicks by itself, and try to tally up last week's raid. There's loot from a Portuguese merchant ship, including bolts of silk, half moth-eaten, some crates of tea, swapped out by the bosun for dried seaweed, and a set of jeweled goblets that turned out to be fake, but very shiny, so still morale-boosting. There's also an unplanned bonus, a parrot that won't stop screaming the word taxation in a French accent. Somehow, your job is to value all of this, and more importantly, to make it look fair. Because if even one crew member suspects, you're skimming or favoring someone, especially the captain, you'll be lucky to end night with both ears. You pull out your secret weapon, a ledger stolen from a Royal Navy vessel, with neat lines, actual numbers, and a conversion table. You try to use it as a template. Big mistake. Within minutes, First Mate Treasure Bob sees your neat columns and yells, "We're not running a bloody bank, mate," and throws a dried mango at your face. Which is fair. Pirates may steal from the crown, but they do not appreciate its paperwork. You adapt. You sketch a new chart using symbols, doodles, and ratios, like 1 goat equals 2 boots equals half a barrel of pickled squid. It's not exact, but it passes the pirate smell test, which is to say, it smells vaguely of rum, and nobody stabs you. You finish just in time for the distribution. The captain stands on a crate, reading names from a scroll while you hand out shares. Every pirate gets a cut, yes, even One-Eyed Mabel, who's technically just the ship's librarian/treasure map forgery consultant. There's a moment of tense silence as Pegtooth Gary inspects his haul, counts his doubloons, and nods. "Fair," he grunts. A cheer goes up. You exhale. And then you notice something odd. The captain's share is smaller than expected. Not Missing, just off. You check the numbers again. According to pirate code, he should be getting a double share, but here it's barely more than yours. That's when you see it tiny letters in the margin next to his entry. CR, holdback. Someone skimming from the captain. But who? And why? You close the ledger slowly, careful not to show your face. The last thing you want is to be seen as curious, because in this world, curiosity doesn't kill the cat, it gets the accountant keelhauled. Word count, 741. You try to forget the tiny letters in the ledger. The CR holdback, scrawled so faintly it could vanish under a smudge, but it won't vanish from your brain. It hums there, like the eerie singing you sometimes hear from the lower deck when the wind hits just wrong. Still, you've got more pressing problems. Namely, your first official audit. The captain bursts into the accounting hold shirt half unbuttoned, hair still damp from a morning dip in shark-infested waters. He slams a chest on your table with a thunk that echoes like thunder and knocks your abacus of uncertain origin clean off its hook. Count it, he says, eyes gleaming. And don't ask questions. That's never a good sign. You open the chest and immediately wish you hadn't. Inside, gold coins. Sure, but also pearls. What might be an obsidian dagger. A tiny velvet pouch that hums ominously. And a taxidermied squirrel dressed like a bishop. The gold is real. You're pretty sure. But something about the chest makes your teeth itch. You reach in with tongs. As you count, you notice something strange. Each coin bears the face of Charles II of Spain, which should be impossible, because those coins were part of the infamous Santissimo Oro shipment that supposedly sank in 1699 off the coast of Hispaniola. And yet here they are, dry, uncracked, and suspiciously warm to the touch. You pause. Rumors whisper through your memory pirate stories, told in hushed tones, always starting with mate. You ever hear of the Black Chest of Monte del Fuego? That chest, legend has it, cursed every ship that held it. Every crew turned on itself. Every navigator lost their way. The treasure was always found, but never kept. Historians still debate whether the legend was born from actual superstition, or if it was part of a deliberate fear tactic used by Spanish armadas to deter piracy. Either way, the chest is here, on your table, staring. You count the coins twice. 214 doubloons, 32 silver reals, and 1 Roman denarius that absolutely should not be there. Who's planting Roman currency in 18th century pirate loot? You check. The ledger from the last port of call. The chest wasn't on it. No mention, no reference. This isn't crew loot, it's a side stash. A secret. Which means someone, possibly the captain, is hiding treasure off the books. You could ignore it. No one would blame you. Pirate accounting is already basically jazz. But something compels you to dig further. Maybe it's the curse. Maybe it's the fact that the bishop squirrel is now facing a different direction than 5 minutes ago. You start flipping through old ledgers, checking for inconsistencies. A pattern emerges every few weeks. There's a notation that reads, Private Intake CR, in the smallest handwriting you've ever seen. Always unverified, always unexplained. And always after raids on ships that mysteriously vanished at sea. You dig deeper. That's when you find a letter, folded into the binding of the ledger, so thin it's almost invisible. It's not addressed to the captain. It's written by the captain. The writing is delicate, poetic even. Dearest Anai, it begins. The weight of gold is never heavier than when I must pretend it means nothing to me. Know that your mirror remains under my bunk, and your last kiss lingers longer than any storm. You blink. The captain, rugged, gruff, allegedly illiterate, is writing love letters. In perfect French cursive. And he's hiding treasure on the side. You hear footsteps. You stash the letter. In walks Coral, The ship's cook, an unofficial gossip reservoir. Saw you poking through the back pages, she says, setting down a tray of salted fish crackers. And something she calls sea moose that may contain actual moose. Word of advice? Don't go looking for truths. Truths on this ship come with consequences. She leaves, humming an old sea shanty with too many verses about drowning. You look back at the chest. The coins gleam. The bishop squirrel winks. No, really, he winks. You log the gold under unclaimed overseas holdings and slide the chest under your hammock. Safer to keep it close for accounting purposes, of course. Still, the thought won't leave you. The captain, the love letter, the cursed coins, and that notation, CR. You're not sure who's really in charge here. But the books? The books are starting to whisper. Word count, 745. You don't sleep much that night. The bishop squirrel's glass eyes glow faintly in the dark, like judgmental lanterns, and the coins seem to shift position every time you blink. It doesn't help that someone's whistling an off-key lullaby. Just outside the hold, one of those eerie pirate tunes where every verse ends in mysterious drowning. But it's not the ghosts or curses that keep you awake. It's the numbers. They don't add up. They never do. And now they're starting to feel like clues in a larger puzzle one, stitched with love letters, missing loot, and initials no one dares explain. By dawn, you drag yourself above deck to clear your head. The sun is merciless, the seagulls even worse, and you step in what you pray is spilled tar. The crew's gathered around a barrel, chanting, "Dilute, dilute, dilute," like it's a ritual. Turns out, it's rum ration day. And they're not chanting for fun, they're protesting. The rum's been watered down. Again, you, of course, are summoned. Because when something goes wrong aboard the Crimson Haddock, the first suspects are 1. The cook, 2. The ghost in the storage room, and 3. You, the person who logs the rum. Stumpy Pete slams the ration book on the table like it owes him child support. "Explain this, bean counter," he snarls. You open the book and flip to the rum page. Everything looks right. 4 barrels logged from Port-au-Prince. 2 marked for crew use, 1 for trade, 1 for captain's personal morale. But then you notice a faint smudge on the trade line. Someone's altered the 2 into a 3. One of the crew barrels is missing, or never arrived, or was siphoned off. You walk to the storage hold and count 3 barrels, but only 2 are labeled. The 3rd is marked with a faint symbol you recognize from your earlier treasure audit, a crooked fishhook, same as the CR. Ledger marks, whoever CR is. They're moving more than gold now. They're taking supplies. And worse, they're sloppy about it. You dip a ladle into the rum. It's watery. Too watery. You taste it. Bad idea. It hits your tongue like betrayal and old socks. You're about to chalk it up to mismanagement when something moves inside the barrel. You freeze. Slowly, you peer in deeper. A rat? A ghost? No. It's a small, waterlogged package, tied in oilskin. You fish it out. Inside, a bundle of letters, wrapped tight in silk. Not just any silk, naval silk, trimmed with silver. And the seal? A royal crest. You're holding smuggled correspondence. Someone's using the ship's rum barrels to traffic letters. You dry one off. The handwriting matches the captain's love letter. Only these aren't love notes, they're reports, military style, inventories, maps, recommendations, addressed to someone named M. Could be a monarch, could be a minister, could be the worst typo in history. You suddenly feel cold, because either the captain is a spy, or you've uncovered someone pretending to be him. Historians still debate whether certain pirate captains doubled as informants or operated independently as rogue agents during empire-building efforts. But if that's true, if the Crimson Haddock is ferrying secrets, then this isn't just about stolen gold anymore. This is war-level espionage. You tuck the letters into your coat just as someone shouts, "He's messing with the rum," and you're nearly trampled by a wave of angry pirates demanding answers and/or stronger drinks. You escape only by flinging a random fish into the crowd distraction successful, pride destroyed. Back in your corner of the hold, you open your master ledger and start a new page. Suspicious activities, possibly treasonous. It's half joke, half survival tactic. Because now you know something's happening below the surface. The diluted rum, the mislabeled barrels, the smuggled documents, and always those initial CR. You try to write a summary, but the ink freezes. Literally, your bottle's cold as ice. The room goes quiet. Even the bishop squirrel seems tense. Then you hear it a distant creak, a groan of wood, and a voice whispering in a language you don't understand. You grip the ledger like it's a sword, because tonight the ship isn't just sailing the sea. It's drifting into something far stranger. Word count, 746. The whispering doesn't stop, not all night. It flutters through the timbers like wind, but there's no breeze. It pulses inside your ears, rhythmic and strange, like chanting at the edge of understanding. You press your hands against the planks, and for one dizzy second, you swear the wood beneath your fingers is breathing. That's when you realize the ship has changed course. You're no sailor, but even you can feel the shift in direction. The stars outside your porthole are wrong. The waves quieter. Too quiet. You shuffle up to the deck, just as the sun begins to rise in sullen pink streaks, and what you see stirs your bones. Ahead, floating in the fog, is another ship, black sails. No flags, no motion, no crew. A ghost ship. The captain squints at it, jaw tight, but says nothing. The crew mutters. Coral makes a sign against evil, using what looks like two shrimp tails. And a prayer. You're ordered below deck standard procedure for non-combatants. Though let's be honest, they just don't want you near the weapons. Instead, you're sent to catalog whatever's found aboard the ghostly vessel. Yes, you, the accountant. Because nothing says safe, like sending the person with the least muscle mass and the most ink stains onto a potentially cursed ship to inventory horrors. You board with a small group captain, first mate, and Peg-Tooth Gary, who carries a harpoon and hums sea dirges for fun. The ship is silent. Ropes sway in the windless air. Doors creak with no hands to move them. Below deck, the hold is full. Not just loot, but papers, scrolls, books, ledgers. And at the center, on a desk bolted to the floor, sits a journal. You open it, hands trembling. It's written in Dutch. You don't read Dutch, but numbers you understand. The columns are familiar inventory, quantity, destinations. And then you see it, the exact same ledger format used on your ship. Same trident mark, same fish skeleton, same cracked tooth line. This ship was using your accounting system. But the date? 1721. You check the cover. De Vliegend Ree, a Dutch East India Company merchant ship, reported missing off the coast of Java. Historians still debate whether it sank in a typhoon or was taken by pirates, but now you know the truth. It became something else, something that floats between the worlds. You move through the hold, making notes, your quill shaking with each line. And then you see it, another bishop squirrel, identical to yours, perched atop a crate of cinnamon and opium, one eye cracked, staring directly at you. "We need to go," you say, voice thin. But the captain is still reading the Dutch journal. "Face pale? This ship," he says slowly, was carrying correspondence. You nod. Of course it was. Military? You ask. Worse, he mutters. Financial. Your heart drops. There's something far more dangerous than haunted treasure. Haunted accounting. The books of this ship, the records, they were meant to expose corruption. Entire empires worth of dirty gold, buried loans, and black market trade. This wasn't a cargo ship. It was a floating audit. And someone didn't want that audit to land. That's when Pegtooth Gary screams. You run back to the main hold. His lantern is smashed. The walls are bleeding ink black, thick, running in lines down the wood. The same lines from the ledgers. The numbers are crawling. Actually crawling. Down the page. Across the desk. Into the cracks of the ship. The captain shouts to abandon the vessel. You don't argue. You grab the Dutch ledger and run. Behind you, the books catch fire without flame. Just heat. Pages curling in slow motion agony, as if erasing themselves. From history, you make it back to the crimson haddock, soaked, ink-stained, and breathless. The ghost ship drifts away on a wind that doesn't touch your sails. No one speaks. Later that night, you open the ledger you took. The numbers are gone. Completely. Every page blank. Except for one sentence in that tiny, cursed script. CR always collects. You don't sleep. The bishop squirrel is now wearing a tiny cape. You're not sure it was there before. You begin a new page in your own ledger. Entities with financial interest in the afterlife. Under it, one name. CR. Who is CR? A person? A code? A warning? You close the book and lock it under your hammock. And then you hear it again. The whispering. Not from the ship. From the ledger itself. Word count. 749. You spend the next morning trying not to look at the ledger. It lies there on your desk, bound in salt-stiffened leather, humming like a memory you never made. You pace the hold, pretending to inventory the pickled vegetable. Stock, which now includes something pickled that looks suspiciously like a finger, but your eyes keep drifting back. The whispering has stopped, but the silence feels heavier, as if the ledger's holding its breath. You crack it open, slowly. Still blank. Every page. Every column. Except for one new phrase scribbled in the margin of the back cover. Reconcile. The lost. No signature. No ink smudge. Just the message. You don't have time to ponder it, because the ship lurches suddenly starboard, flinging you into a stack of emergency parrots. Don't ask. And someone shouts, "Sails on the horizon." You stumble above deck. Sure enough, a pale white ship is drifting closer. No flags, but not the ghost ship. This one has sails patched with lace, and its crew is dressed far too well for pirates. They wave. Politely, the captain swears under his breath. Privateers, he mutters. Worse than pirates. They smile while robbing you. You're sent back down, of course, this time to prepare an inventory manifest in case of casual inspection, which is pirate code for bribery paperwork. You open a different ledger and begin listing cargo the Crimson Haddock absolutely does not have, like barrels of gunpowder labeled as medicinal ash and unlicensed parrots, listed under avian entertainment consultants. Just as you're fudging the number of emergency grappling hooks to make it sound less suspicious, Coral pops in, holding a box wrapped in oilcloth. This came with the morning rations, she says. No one knows who loaded it. That's not unusual. Things have been showing up on board, lately candlesticks, wax seals, even a compass that points to the nearest debt. But this box is heavy. You unwrap it. Inside, a thick scroll, tied with red thread, sealed in wax. You break the seal and unroll it, heart thudding. It's a map, a beautiful one, hand-inked, coastlines, winds, trade routes, and in the center, an island shaped like a coin. No name, No markings except one. At the bottom, written in familiar script, Ledger Island, property of the CR Foundation. Your skin prickles. The island doesn't exist on any known charts. You pull out old navigation records from previous journeys. Nothing matches. But you flip to the map's edge and see something you missed a date, or what looks like one. Only it reads 4Q1721. That's not a date. That's a quarter. A financial quarter. The map is fiscal. Someone has charted the seas by accounting periods. And the island appears only when certain conditions are met, like a balance sheet, aligning with the stars. You run calculations based on ship's logs and supply usage. And suddenly, everything fits. Every time the ship veered unexpectedly, every cargo that vanished, every whisper in the ledger, it was all part of a system, a schedule, a quarterly reckoning. The Crimson Haddock is being steered not by compass, but by balance sheet. You stagger up to the captain, waving the scroll. This ship, you gasp, is following a budget. He narrows his eyes, then grins. Aye, and if we hit surplus this quarter, we get a bonus island. The crew doesn't know, but he does, and someone else does too, because just then, the privateer vessel finally arrives. Its captain boards with a diplomatic smile, surrounded by guards with unusually clean boots. He walks straight past the captain and straight to you. You're the accountant, he says. We've been watching your ledgers. He hands you a card. It reads, Bureau of Nautical Balances and Irregular Taxation, Field Review Division. You've triggered an audit, he says. Please prepare your records, including all ghost entries. You freeze. He smiles wider. Oh, and do check for duplicates. The last ship we visited was also using CR codes. They don't tend to end well. You open your mouth. No sound comes out. The ledger in your coat pocket grows heavy. Somewhere below deck, a bishop squirrel sneezes. You never thought you'd be audited in the middle of the Caribbean by a man with pearl-button gloves and a monocle shaped like a spyglass. But here we are. The privateer captain, who insists on being called Controller Vane, pores over your ledgers in the captain's quarters like he's reviewing sacred scrolls. Outside, the crew is nervously polishing cutlasses and pretending not to listen, while Coral keeps trying to offer the auditors suspiciously fresh banana bread. We've reviewed your miscellaneous explosive expenses, Vane says without looking up. Your depreciation values are imaginative, but also legally dubious. You nod slowly, not entirely sure what legally means at sea. He flips a page. Ah, and here, the infamous Lev Maybe crate. Declared value. 4 shillings and 2 existential questions. You try to explain that the crate once contained a sentient mob, but he's already moved on. And of course, he adds, tapping a page that wasn't there before, the entry labeled simply, CR Bonus Ledger Island Prepayment. You swallow. That page is written in your own handwriting. You didn't write it. You never wrote it, but the ink is still wet. We've seen this before, Controller Vane says. Ships infected by phantom entries. Numbers that write themselves. Ledgers that bend reality. And always the same initials. He closes the book with a snap. You're nearing the threshold, when books outgrow their accountants. That night, the Crimson Haddock sails on, but no one sleeps. You lock the ledger in a steel chest wrapped in anchor chain. Place it in the bilge under the pickled emergency eels, and sit on top of it with a frying pan. Not that it matters. You still hear it writing. Scratch, scratch. Tally marks in the dark. At dawn, something new appears. A ripple on the sea. An outline. On the horizon that wasn't there before. Round, coin-shaped. Ledger Island, the captain says, his voice low. "It only shows up for those who've earned it." The island grows larger. Golden sands, trees shaped like quills, birds with coin-shaped eyes. The water around it glows faintly with the shimmer of ink. You dock with caution. The air smells like old paper and burnt interest. The crew fans out, searching for treasure, but finds only statues, dozens of them, all lifelike, all clutching ledgers, all with faces frozen mid-scream. "Previous accountants," Coral mutters. "Poor fools must have missed a decimal." You explore the central temple, because of course there's a temple and inside. You find a room filled with ledgers, stacked high to the vaulted ceiling. Each one bears the same initials, CR. You open one. It details the profits of an ancient Phoenician trade route. Another, the exact bribe amounts paid by 3 Roman senators in 42 BC. One more, inventory lists from a Viking raid, including 1 goat, 14 axes, and an unsigned note reading, "O Bjorn 3 fish." The ledgers span centuries, languages, empires. All accurate, all cursed. Historians still debate whether a secret guild of financial chroniclers existed to record the shadow, economy of history, or whether this is just an elaborate fever dream caused by vitamin C deficiency. But as you open a final ledger, the room shifts. You're not on the island anymore. You're in a marble hall, endless, silent, lit by candlelight that doesn't flicker. And at the far end sits a figure, robed in ink-black cloth, face obscured, quill in one hand. The other hand beckons. "You've kept good records," the voice says, echoing like a receipt unfurling forever. "But one account remains, yours." The ledger in its hand bears your name. It opens. The pages flip. Your entire time on the Crimson Haddock unfolds in perfect script. The mistakes, the fudged numbers, the love letter you definitely weren't supposed to read. "Will you reconcile?" the voice asks. You nod, trembling. The figure slides the ledger forward. A quill floats in the air. Your fingers move before you think. You write. You balance. You subtract the lies. You add the truths. You cross-reference the ghost ships and the squirrel. When it's done, the figure nods, paid in full, and then you're back on the island. Alone, ledger closed. The temple is gone. The crew is gone. Only the bishop's squirrel remains now dressed as a notary. You look down. One last entry has appeared in your book. Finalized. No outstanding debt. For now. The island vanishes the moment you step back onto the Crimson Haddock. One moment, it's gold and ink and ghost statues under the sun, and the next, it's gone. Like a mirage folded back into the sea. The crew doesn't remember landing. They don't remember the temple. They think you were below deck the whole time, organizing cannonball receipts. You nod and go along with it. What else can you do? The ledger's still warm under your arm, but it's quiet now. No whispering. Number. Mysterious entries. No tally marks that bleed through from the other side. Just ink and parchment. As if none of it ever happened. You go to your corner, unlock your supply chest, and gently place the book beside your emergency dried pineapple rations. You tell yourself this is the end, that the numbers are done with you, that you've balanced the great accounting sheet of pirate existence. You even start a new page, post-audit inventory adjustments, and begin recalculating supplies now that Peg-Tooth Gary has lost his other peg. Long story involving a hammock, 2 coconuts, and a very fast crab. But peace doesn't last long. It never does at sea. That evening, as you're preparing ration reports and trying not to cry over a barrel of onions that somehow aged backwards into green sprouts, you hear shouting above deck. Not the usual. Shark poker tournament. Or who replaced my hat with a squid. kind of shouting. This is urgent. Panicked, you race topside to see the captain standing near the helm, pale as ghost chalk. She's gone, he says, pointing out to sea. And there, half submerged and clearly drifting away into the mist, is another ship, your ship, the Crimson Haddock, the one you're on now, except that one has full sails and a crew. You on the deck, scribbling in your ledger. Another captain at the helm. Coral shouting at a barrel. Everything's the same, except it's not. What are we standing on? You whisper. No one answers. The ship beneath your feet begins to creak in strange ways. Wood groaning like it's waking up from a long nap. You rush back to your ledger. Open it. New words have appeared. Redundant vessel. Prepare for consolidation. You're not on the real haddock anymore. You're on a duplicate, a backup, an entry in a cosmic spreadsheet that's been overwritten. And somewhere out there, the true balance is correcting itself. That's when the fog rolls in. Not normal. Fog, ledger fog. Every tendril looks like shredded receipts and curling ink lines. The ocean smells like melted wax and bureaucracy. The bishop squirrel puts on a tiny helmet. You flip madly through the ledger, searching for guidance, escape, anything. One final page unfolds itself. Blank until it isn't. Words appear, slowly. To exit redundancy, perform reconciliation. Personal, moral, and nautical. You stare. The ship shudders. You have one last audit to perform. Not of coins, not of rations, not even of cursed inventory. Of yourself. The decisions you made. The truths you altered. The names you protected. The secrets you logged in ink so faint, even you pretended they weren't real. You sit at your desk, quill shaking, and begin to write. You write the full story of your time aboard. The treasure audits, the falsified rum tallies, the love letters. Hidden inside barrels. You name the moments you flinched. You record every time you lied to keep your skin intact. And then you pause. You look up. The ship groans again. One by one, the fog tendrils retreat. The air clears. You look down. The ledger says, entry accepted. And the page turns blank again. The ship beneath you jolts, merges, slides back into sync. The world stutters and resumes. You're on the real haddock again. Coral hands. You a plate of sea moose. Peg-tooth Gary is arguing with a parrot. The captain gives you a nod that says he somehow knows. That night, as the stars wheel above you and the ocean whispers lullabies in the language of waves, you curl up in your hammock, ledger under your head like a pillow. No whispering, no writing. Just the quiet, perfect balance of zero. You did it. You balanced the books. And just before sleep claims you, one last phrase appears in the margin. CR thanks you for your service. Now take a deep breath. Let the sea fade away. Let the parchment crinkle into silence. Picture that soft hammock beneath you, the stars slow dancing above, a bishop squirrel finally nodding off beside a flickering lantern. Your work is done, the books are balanced, and the ghost ships have sailed. Let the numbers dissolve into mist. Nothing to prove, nothing left to calculate. Just the gentle rock of the waves, the hush of midnight winds, and the warmth of knowing that even in the strangest corners of history, you made sense of the chaos. Sleep now, accountant of the high seas. Your audit is complete. End of script. Good night.